was just 2 weeks to Christmas, and Mr. John's house was alive with excitement. The air rang with the laughter of children as they ran up and down the corridors, dragging bags, singing songs, and chattering about their trip to the village. Every year, it was the same routine. The family packed their bags, loaded the car, and traveled back home to spend Christmas with relatives. To the children, this was the highlight of their year: the smell of fresh air, the shade of tall mango trees, and cousins waiting to play with them. But what none of them knew was that this year would be unlike any other. This year, evil was waiting for them, evil so dark, so determined that their lives would never be the same again. Inside the house, Mrs. Yue moved quickly between the kitchen and the bedroom. She was the careful one, the planner, the woman who made sure not a single sock was forgotten. She cooked snacks for the journey, folded clothes neatly into bags, and checked and rechecked her list. But as she worked, her heart was heavy, not because of the journey itself, but because of her husband. She stopped folding for a moment and looked at Mr. John, who sat in the living room sipping a bottle of soda, smiling at the chaos around him. "John," she said softly, "before we travel, let us pray. Just 2 minutes, please." But Mr. John waved his hand, dismissing her words as if shooing away a fly. "Yue, please stop disturbing me. God already knows I am traveling. He doesn't need me to remind him." "Relax," he said, chuckling at his own joke. Her heart sank. She had prayed for years for her husband to take prayer seriously, but he never listened. Even the children had started copying him. Whenever she knelt to pray in the mornings, the older ones would groan, "Mama, do we have to? Prayer is boring." Still, she prayed. She prayed for protection, for mercy, and for God to shield her family even if she prayed alone. One evening, as the journey drew closer, Mr. John drove home from work. His mind was full of the coming trip. Who could already see the children laughing with their cousins, already taste the roasted yam and palm wine waiting in the village. But then, he saw something unusual. At the corner of the road stood an old woman. Her wrapper was tied tightly around her waist, and in her hand was a small basket. She raised her frail hand, asking for a ride. Mr. John slowed down and stopped. "Mama, where are you going?" he asked kindly. "My son," she said, her voice thin but clear, "just down the next street. Please help me." He nodded. "Climb in." For a while, silence filled the car, broken only by the hum of the engine and the chirping of crickets outside. But then the woman spoke, her tone serious. "My son, I hope you won't be angry with what I'm about to say, but this Christmas, you should not travel to your village, and if you must go, you and your family must pray and fast before the journey. There is danger ahead." Her words hung heavy in the air. Mr. John laughed loud, carefree laughter. "Mama, every year we travel and return safely. Nothing has ever happened. Please, don't scare me with these stories. We'll be fine." The old woman's face grew stern. Her eyes seemed to pierce through him. "I have said what I came to say. The rest is in your hands." When she stepped out of the car, she turned one last time. "Remember my words. Pray and fast, or do not go." But Mr. John only shook his head and drove away. "People like to make everything spiritual," he muttered. Behind him, the old woman stood still, watching as his car disappeared into the darkness. Finally, it was 2 days to Christmas. The house buzzed with excitement. Bags packed, gifts wrapped, snacks stored away. Before they left, Mrs. Yue gathered everyone in the living room. "Please," she pleaded, "let us pray together before we go." But Mr. John frowned. "Yue, please, we are not going to the moon, it's just the village. Stop making this a big deal." He stormed outside to warm up the car, but when he turned the key, silence. The car refused to start. Again and again he tried nothing. Frustrated, he called a mechanic. After inspecting the engine, the mechanic looked up and shook his head. "Oga, the engine has knocked. This car is not moving." "What?" John shouted. "I drove it yesterday. How can this be?" Mrs. Yue only whispered, "Maybe God doesn't want us to go." John snapped. "Oh, stop that. What does God have to do with the car engine? We'll take a commercial bus instead." And just like that, the decision was made. Meanwhile, in the village, not everyone looked forward to Mr. John's yearly visit. Mama, his stepmother, sat outside her mud house, bitterness twisting her face. Every Christmas, John arrived in his shiny car, his children healthy, his wife glowing, and her own sons, poor, struggling, overshadowed. That night, with her friend Mama E, she went deep into the forest to the witches. There, in a hut, smelling of blood and ash, she knelt before the witch leader. My stepson John must not reach this village alive. His success has shamed me for too long. The witches cackled. Into a bubbling pot they threw a piece of his shirt, ashes, and dark words of curse. They will not arrive alive, the witch declared. A deadly accident awaits them on the road. Mama Amaka's heart swelled with wicked joy at the busy motor park. Travelers pushed, vendors shouted, children cried. Mr. John bought tickets, and the family boarded the bus stop before departure. Mrs. Yue stood up. Please, let us pray before we begin, she said firmly. Some passengers nodded, but others rolled their eyes. Mr. John turned red with embarrassment. Yue, sit down. You're embarrassing me. This is not church. But Yue prayed anyway. Lord, protect us on this journey. Cover this bus with your mercy. Moments later, the bus roared to life and hit the highway. For a while, everything was peaceful. The children laughed, the road stretched ahead, and Mr. John drifted into sleep. Then suddenly, the brakes are not working. The driver screamed. Panic filled the bus. Passengers shrieked. The vehicle swerved uncontrollably. Ahead, a tanker loomed on the road. Yue clutched her children tightly, tears streaming down her face. Lord, save us, she cried. And then crash. The sound of twisted metal, shattering glass, and human screams tore through the air. News spread quickly. John and his family have been in an accident. Villagers whispered. Mama Amaka fell to the ground, beating her chest and crying loudly. Oh, my son, my stepchildren, what have we done to deserve this? She wailed for all to hear while secretly rejoicing inside. But the witch's curse had not prevailed at the crash site. Rescuers found Mrs. Yue and the children, untouched, not a single scratch. Mr. John, however, lay crushed at the front. His legs were gone, but he was alive. At the hospital, Yue knelt beside his bed, her children huddled around her. She prayed through tears, Lord, you saved us. Please, do not take my husband. Through the night, doctors fought to save him. By morning, he opened his eyes, weak but alive. Later that day, the old woman he had once given a ride walked into the hospital. Her steps were slow, but her presence commanded silence. Do you remember me? She asked. Mr. John nodded faintly. I warned you, she said. If not for your wife's prayers, you and your children would be gone. Your stepmother, Mama Amaka, conspired with the witches, but God is greater than their plans. Your wife's prayers built a shield around you. Mr. John broke down, sobbing. I was foolish. I never prayed. I never listened. But God has shown me mercy. From that day forward, Mr. John was a changed man. Every morning, he was the first to gather his family for prayer, kneeling beside his wife. On Sundays, his voice was the loudest in church, singing praises with tears in his eyes. As for Mama Amaka, her wickedness consumed her. Years later, she died, and only then did Mr. John return to the village with a humble heart and a grateful spirit. And so, the story of Mr. John's accident and miraculous survival spread far and wide. It became a lesson for many that prayer is the strongest weapon against unseen dangers, that not everyone rejoices in your success, and that God's protection can never be defeated by evil. If you learned something from this story, comment your thoughts below, like this video, and don't forget to subscribe for more life-changing tales like this one. Thank you for watching.